Nightmare neighbor's scheme to steal our home ends in $200,000 karma. You won't believe what happened next. Imagine moving into your dream home, feeling the excitement of new beginnings and the peacefulness of a quaint lakeside neighborhood. Then, picture that perfect tranquility being shattered when you find out your neighbor is not just entitled but actively scheming to steal your property right from under you. Today, we unravel a twisted saga where a nightmare neighbor's greed and a party animal son's recklessness lead to unexpected karma that cost them $200. Grab your popcorn, because this is one tale of entitlement and comeuppance that you won't want to miss. The story begins long before our main characters, the new homeowners, enter the scene. In a small lakeside community, there was a woman named Karen. She owned a large piece of land not far from a well-known recreational lake. Karen decided to divide her land among her children as they grew older. For the most part, it seemed like a sensible and loving gesture. One of her children, a daughter, inherited a portion and turned out to be a respectable and responsible neighbor. However, her son, S, was the polar opposite, a spoiled, irresponsible party animal whose disregard for others made him infamous in the community. S had a piece of property where he lived like a king. Funded by his mother, parties were held almost nightly, with music blaring, guests drinking until dawn, and chaos reigning until the early hours. The local police were often called by frustrated neighbors. But S's behavior never changed. Not while his mother paid all the bills and cleaned up his messes. S's reckless behavior eventually led to the property being destroyed from the inside out, holes in the walls, broken floors, and a ruined kitchen that left the home uninhabitable. S eventually lost the property, which was foreclosed by the bank. And his mother, surprisingly, did not intervene this time. Enter the protagonists of our story, the new homeowners. A couple seeking a fresh start in a peaceful community. They found S's former home listed at an incredibly low price. It was a fixer-upper, but the potential was undeniable. They were excited to take on the challenge and make it their lifelong home, especially given the beautiful location near the lake where they loved to fish and boat. They met Poe, the previous owner, who was fixing the property to put it back on the market. After some convincing, P.O. decided to sell the house to the couple before it was fully renovated. And they began their journey of hard work and dedication to restore it. The couple put their heart and soul into this renovation. Every corner of the house was touched, from redoing the floors to patching the holes in the walls. It was no small task. The couple spent countless hours, money, and effort. But finally, their dream home started to take shape. They were excited to move in and begin their new life in the neighborhood. Unfortunately, their excitement was short-lived. Not long after they moved in, N, the entitled neighbor, Karen herself, paid them a visit. N had a proposition, and it wasn't a friendly one. She claimed that the house the couple had just bought rightfully belonged to her family. That her son had only lost it because of unfortunate circumstances, and that it was a family property that should never have been sold. She demanded that the couple sell it back to her for a reasonable price, far less than the market value and significantly less than what they had invested in restoring it. The couple, shocked and appalled, politely refused. They had worked hard to restore the house, and it was now their home. They explained that they had legally purchased it, and they had no obligation to return it. N did not take kindly to the refusal. She resorted to name-calling, attempting to guilt-trip the couple, and even escalating her claims to the local authorities, stating that the couple had no right to the property. The situation became tense and stressful, with N doing everything she could to create problems for the new homeowners. She even tried to rally the neighbors against them, though few were willing to side with her, given her son's notorious history in the community. This is where karma begins to play its role. The couple, determined to stand their ground, contacted P.O., the former owner, and the local bank to verify their ownership. They were backed up on every front. P.O. verified the sale, and the bank confirmed that the deed was now in the couple's name. N was left with no legal standing, but she still wasn't ready to give up. What followed was a relentless attempt by N to make life miserable for the couple. She accused them of taking her family's land and made it clear that she would fight to get it back. She even tried to claim a portion of their property, saying that it belonged to her. This time, the couple took legal action. They hired a surveyor to assess the property boundaries, and the results clearly showed that N had no claim to any part of their land. Still, N persisted, and things took a darker turn when a storm knocked down a tree on the disputed land, causing damage to a neighboring property. N tried to pin the blame on the couple, attempting to shift the financial responsibility for the damages onto them. The insurance company got involved, and once again, the couple stood their ground. They provided evidence from the surveyor and showed that the land was not theirs. The insurance company, after conducting its own investigation, concluded that the damage was indeed N's responsibility. She was left to pay for the damage, and the costs were significant. This was the first major blow in N's campaign to harass the new homeowners. And it was just the beginning. One of the most interesting aspects of this story is how the local community eventually turned against N as word spread about her entitled behavior and her attempts to take back the property. Her reputation began to crumble. The couple, on the other hand, started to gain sympathy and support from their neighbors, many of whom had dealt with N's antics for years. The turning point came when it was revealed that N's son, S, had been double charging customers at the convenience store that N had built on her property. The couple had discovered this when they visited the store and noticed discrepancies in their receipts. They quietly reported the issue, and soon, others in the community began to notice the same thing. N tried to brush it off as a mistake or a broken register. But it was clear that S had been pocketing the extra money. The community was outraged, and the store's reputation took a nosedive. Eventually, the store had to close, as people stopped shopping there altogether. This marked the beginning of N's financial troubles. Without the income from the store, she struggled to maintain her property and lifestyle. The couple, meanwhile, continued to improve their home and even started making plans to build a privacy fence. They wanted to create a peaceful environment where they could relax without worrying about N's constant prying eyes. When they informed N about their plans, she vehemently objected, claiming that the fence would encroach on her land. Once again, the couple had to bring in legal help to prove that they were well within their rights to build the fence on their own property. Despite all the challenges, the couple remained resilient. They focused on their home and their happiness. And slowly but surely, things began to turn in their favor. N's attempts to intimidate and harass them backfired, and her financial situation worsened. She eventually had to sell off parts of her property to cover her debts, and her influence in the community diminished. The couple, on the other hand, began to form genuine friendships with their neighbors, who saw them as hard-working and honest people who had been treated unfairly by N. The story concludes with a powerful message about resilience and karma. The couple never stooped to N's level. They stood their ground, followed the law, and let karma take its course. In the end, N's greed and entitlement led to her downfall, while the couple's hard work and determination allowed them to keep their dream home and build a happy life in the community. This story serves as a reminder that no matter how difficult the situation, staying true to oneself and standing up for what is right will always lead to a better outcome. The story of the nightmare neighbor and the $200 karma is more than just a tale of property disputes. It's a story about the importance of doing what is right, standing up against entitlement, and believing that, in the end, good things come to those who act with integrity. My husband and I are on the brink of divorce, and we are desperately seeking advice. Can our marriage be saved? Imagine falling in love with someone you've known practically your whole life. Picture the connection you share when you've grown up together, knowing every part of their history and feeling like they're an inseparable part of your being. Now imagine feeling that bond break, shatter piece by piece, leaving you trying to pick up the fragments of what once felt like your forever. This is a story of love, betrayal, healing, and finding the strength to walk away from the person you thought you'd never be without. The story starts when they were young, barely out of elementary school. The couple met when they were just 9 years old. As preteens, they formed a bond that grew into a romantic relationship by the time they were 12. It was innocent, that kind of middle school dating that mostly involved notes being passed in class and stolen glances at recess. But even then, she thought she had found her person. They grew up together, faced the awkwardness of adolescence, and it felt as though nothing could come between them. But love, especially the naive kind of love that blossoms in childhood, is often unprepared for the stormy challenges of adulthood. Fast forward a few years, and things were no longer as simple as those carefree school days. By the time they were in high school, cracks began to form in their relationship. He cheated on her for the first time when they were around 15. She was devastated, but somehow they continued. The on-again, off-again pattern continued until they both reached 17, when she received a scholarship to a prestigious university across the country. It was a golden opportunity, one that promised a future filled with success and self-growth. But as she moved away to pursue her dreams, the distance between them became more than just miles. It was an emotional distance that seemed to widen every day. College was a turning point. She hated it there. The loneliness, the competitiveness of the sports team, and the general atmosphere were too much. When he flew across the country to visit her, things felt hopeful again. They even got engaged. It was a young love decision, fueled by emotions and the desire for stability in the midst of chaos. They were married soon after, in a courthouse ceremony. She was 19, he was 18, and life seemed to offer them a chance at building something together. Shortly after the wedding, he joined the military. The prestigious branch he chose meant a lot of time away, long training sessions, and deployments. Their young marriage quickly faced its first serious test. The separation was difficult, but the couple tried to make it work. They wrote letters, made calls whenever possible, and believed in the idea that love could conquer all. She waited for him, hopeful and dedicated. However, during one of these absences, she discovered that he had signed up on Bumble and even paid for upgrades to the dating app. He insisted that he never actually met anyone and that the conversations were just harmless introductions. She wanted to believe him, and so she did, but the trust had taken a major hit. Shortly thereafter, she found another charge, $600 at a strip club. Again, he had a story. This time, it was about a friend who couldn't pay for a VIP room, and how he stepped in to help. He insisted that nothing happened, that he was only being a good friend. The excuses piled up, and each time she confronted him, he had an answer ready. It was around this time that he began frequenting strip clubs and indulging in pornography. It was not just about watching, he had developed an addiction. She could see it in his behavior, in the way he would rush to the bathroom as soon as he got home, spending long periods locked inside. She would go in afterward and find traces, a bottle of lubricant, still wet marks on the counter. She chose to ignore it for a while, until one day she saw a transaction on their account, $30 to a suspicious name. When she confronted him, he came up with yet another excuse. A friend's wife had paid for lunch, and he was just reimbursing her. But the truth was far from it. One day, she received a message from an acquaintance. He had been messaging her the night before, telling her he loved and missed her. The pain she felt was unbearable. She confronted him, and again, he denied it, saying a friend had used his phone. He even produced proof, showing a text exchange with a friend where they confirmed the story. She wanted to believe him so badly. She wanted to hold on to the hope that they could still make it work. But the reality was that he had betrayed her, repeatedly. The next few years were a blur of hurt and disappointment. She found more evidence of his infidelity, messages, transactions, and lies that kept unraveling. He even lied about using Bumble again, downloading it and paying for upgrades. Each time she found out, he had a story, and each time she believed him, or at least chose to ignore the obvious truth. The weight of it all began to take a toll on her mental health. She had panic attacks, she felt alone, and there were even times when she ended up in the hospital because of the emotional strain. They tried marriage counseling, and for a while, it seemed to help. He made an effort to change. He deleted his social media accounts, kept his phone unlocked, and even started taking care of the household chores. But the damage was done. She found herself unable to trust him. Every time he went out, every time he was late, she couldn't help but panic. She berated him, yelled at him, wanting him to feel the pain she felt. They fell into a toxic cycle. He would do something to trigger her, and she would react in anger. It was only after she got her own therapist that things started to change for her. The therapist became her support system, someone she could confide in, and someone who helped her see the reality of her situation. The turning point came when she realized that they had different dreams for their future. She wanted a family, a stable life, and a partner she could rely on. He wanted to stay in the military, to focus on his career, and he even admitted that he didn't want a family. The realization was heartbreaking. She had spent so much of her life with him, And now it seemed like they were on different paths. They still loved each other. But love wasn't enough anymore. They couldn't keep hurting each other. And they couldn't keep pretending that things would get better. It was then that she decided to file for divorce. It was the hardest decision she had ever made. But it was also the most liberating. For the first time in years, she felt like she was taking control of her life. She moved back home, surrounded herself with friends and family, and started to rebuild. She enrolled in nursing school, reconnected with old friends, and began to find herself again. The happiness she felt was something she hadn't experienced in a long time. She realized that she was capable, strong, and deserving of a life filled with joy and peace. Her ex-husband, on the other hand, continued down his path. They stopped talking, and she found that she was okay with that. She no longer felt the need to hold on to the past, to try and fix something that was beyond repair. She had done everything she could, and now it was time to focus on herself. She found new hobbies, made new friends, and even started dating again. Life, for the first time in a long time, felt full of possibilities. The lessons she learned were invaluable. She learned that love is not about sacrificing your own happiness for someone else's mistakes. She learned that trust, once broken, is incredibly hard to rebuild, and sometimes it's just not possible. She learned that it's okay to let go, even when it feels like the hardest thing in the world. Most importantly, she learned that she was worthy of love, respect, and happiness. To anyone who might be in a similar situation, she has this to say: you are not alone. You deserve to be happy, to be loved in a way that doesn't hurt. It's okay to walk away, even if you've invested years into a relationship. It's okay to start over, to build a life that brings you joy. You are stronger than you think. And sometimes the bravest thing you can do is to let go of what is holding you back. An art teacher's nightmare. Uncovering the disturbing secrets behind a student's silent obsession. It was an ordinary Monday morning, the kind where everything felt comfortably predictable. At least at first. I walked into my classroom, a bright space filled with easels, paint splatters, and a sense of creativity that I loved fostering among my students. But little did I know, that morning would set in motion a terrifying chain of events that would completely upend my life. It would make me question my safety, my connection with my students, and my ability to continue doing what I love, teaching art. My name is Anna, an art teacher in a quiet Dutch town. My students were mostly young teenagers, and I considered myself fortunate to have a class that seemed, for the most part, curious, eager to learn, and filled with positive energy. Among my students was a girl named Jane, an intelligent 12-year-old who, from the very beginning, showed unusual attention towards me. Jane stood out not only because of her brilliance in art but also because of her strange behavior. Jane, as it turned out, had autism, and she often went out of her way to be helpful. She would do everything from defending me against her classmates' minor misbehaviors to insisting on helping me clean the classroom after everyone had left. For Valentine's Day, Jane had anonymously gifted me a rose, but I knew it was from her. I recognized her distinct handwriting on the card. Despite all this, I never truly worried. Sure, it was odd, but I chalked it up to her wanting a connection and being socially different. In my heart, I sympathized with her. Teenage years are difficult for everyone, let alone for someone dealing with the additional challenge of autism. But things took a chilling turn a few weeks later. It started as just another class where I split the students into groups for an art project. Jane and her usual group of 3 friends were being loud and distracting. So I separated them. I moved Jane to the opposite side of the classroom, and she seemed annoyed but compliant. I saw them conversing in what seemed like sign language, gestures, expressions, and quick signs flying back and forth. I didn't think much of it. Many teenagers seem to create secret languages. It's part of the experience of feeling unique. However, there was something about their body language that gave me pause. They kept glancing at me, and Jane, sitting alone, looked